Hello, partners, and welcome to our October edition of our LACCAL PrideCast. My name is Rich Leduc. I'm one of the board members on the LACCAL Pride Network, and I'm joined by...
I'm Frank Thompson, the CEO of APLA Health.
I'm Frank. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm your co-chair for the LACCAL Pride Network.
Sure are, yeah. Craig, thanks for joining us again. I know we were together in August for our PrideCast, and the reason we were together in August is because we were kicking off AIDS Walk LA, the 40th edition, which is coming up in just a matter of days on October 13th. So if you haven't signed up to walk, or if you haven't signed up and registered to fundraise, please do so. We're getting closer to our goal of 80,000, so let's get there.
We're going to start with a little bit of coffee. And what's in your cup, Rich?
You know, Frank, well, this is a cup of courage.
All right.
Yeah, we're doing something different today. We're drinking courage instead of coffee. So
Great.
cheers to courage.
To courage.
Yeah, and the reason I want to talk about courage is because, as we know, it's one of our 5 values at Starbucks. And part of being courageous is using our voice to exercise our right to vote. We do have something coming up.
It's an election year, presidential election year.
Yeah, it's a big election this year. And we have something at Starbucks that really helps encourage partners to exercise their right to vote. It's a place you can go for your one-stop shop called fuelOurDemocracy.com. And it's really about like Starbucks joining over 800 companies that share similar nonpartisan values, which is every American having a voice in our democracy and a belief that voting should be safe and accessible to all, and that elections should be fair and consistent.
I've gone to the website. I really sunk in and checked it out a couple of weeks ago, and it's great. So a lot of really cool resources, the ability to register to vote, a pledge to vote card. I believe you can share that like on your social media. It has contact information for both federal and state representatives, a know your ballot feature. So you can plug in your address and it's going to tell you everything that you're eligible to vote on, and information about the candidates. And it's also going to show you some different ways to get involved if you're interested in working in a poll or volunteering for a cause. Did you know, even if you're not a Lyft to Work store, free Lyft to the polling places?
Yeah, that's great.
If you haven't checked out Fuel Our Democracy and you do have questions, it's a really good resource to go to.
Yeah, it really is a one-stop shop. You're probably wondering why we have our friend Craig Thompson here again with us. Last time we were all together was in August for our PrideCast to really talk about AIDS Walk LA. Craig, do you want to start by maybe giving us a little bit more intro on APLA Health, the work that it does, and then maybe lead into why this election is so important to APLA Health as an organization and the important community that you serve?
So we've historically and they really do 3 different things. We provide direct medical care and treatment to the LGBT, the queer community, and people living with HIV. We also do HIV prevention, education, and awareness. But our third leg of our stool has always been advocacy and government affairs. We've learned a long time ago that to get work done, to get your positions passed, you need to be out there talking to representatives, educating people on why your positions are the right positions and why you should be supported. And so things like elections become very important for us and for everyone, because those are the folks that are going to be voting on funding for organizations like ours and voting for positions that will be very important for providing support to our clients through us, or voting against those positions.
What are some of the roadblocks you think that are out there that can possibly keep people from voting?
I think the first thing is that you have to have a plan to vote and be sure you're registered. And the reason for that is that most states require that you be registered in advance of voting day. The Starbucks website helps you register. For folks, if you're in California, by AIDS Walk Day, you need to be registered. I mean, that's about what the deadline is. The second thing is this can be very intimidating. And this is a presidential election. This is also congressional election. So the ballots are going to be very long. There's also a lot of propositions depending on where you are. There's state propositions, city propositions, all the way down to school district heads. First of all, find a credible resource that you believe. We tell people to go to HRC, for example, or to Equality California if they're looking at voting sort of as a queer person, particularly, or somebody who supports queer people. Resource that you believe. We tell people to go to HRC, for example, or to Equality California if they're looking at voting sort of as a queer person, particularly, or somebody who supports queer people. The other thing is it's okay to leave an election box blank. don't vote for somebody because you like their name. That's not a good strategy. But this is not a multiple choice question, where you put C in rather than leave it blank. If you don't know about an issue, but you're passionate about another issue, vote on the issue you're passionate about and leave the other one blank. Better than not going to the polls and not collecting your opinion on that issue that you were passionate about. So I think that's really important. When you look at our propositions this year, we're going to be dealing with some really broad things like rent control and minimum wage and gay marriage. And so if you think for a minute that these things don't affect you, think about, if it's not maybe you, think about how many of your friends are affected by the minimum wage, or how many of you were affected by rent increases that were higher or lower depending on what the state regulations do. So you may think, oh, this vote doesn't matter to me. But if you really dig in, you're going to find out that not only because of what elected officials do, but some of these propositions are going to have an impact on your lives and the lives of the people you care about.
Thanks for sharing all of that, Craig. I think that's all really important things to think about. You mentioned registering to vote, the abundance of information. Those two key points there are something that partners can do very easily by going to fuelOurDemocracy.com. It just takes minutes. Going back to our conversation earlier about courage, part of courage is voting for the first time, is doing something a little unusual or different than you're used to doing and not feeling super at ease about it. We know that many of our Gen Z partners will be voting in a major election for the first time this year.
Yeah, I think about when it comes to people voting for the first time, whether it's the first election they're old enough to vote in, or maybe they've received citizen status since the last election and haven't voted yet, is just getting out to vote. And I think the responsibility is, if you're like the three of us, I've participated in elections before and we know how easy it is. But how do we help our others or those who haven't participated to vote before do all the things? It starts with the registration. It's having the plan. We know when election day is. How are you going to vote? Where are you going to vote? When are you going to vote? So really working on building the plan so that it is accessible and easy. Again, the Fuel Our Democracy has all of the really great resources like the free lift and some of the information. HRC website, Equality California, EQ California for LGBTQIA plus rights and initiatives. And so I think it's just how do not only you inform yourself, but how do you inform others that haven't had the opportunity?
There are elections and there are elections. I mean, and this is a major election, and you're sort of kidding yourself if you don't think that something on that ballot isn't going to affect you or, again, your family or friends. So thinking about I don't care or it doesn't matter. In fact, it does matter. And it may not be immediately apparent, but when you start digging into it, you will find positions you say, wait a minute, I do care about that, or that does affect me. I think also we have to remember that, lots of people in the world don't have the right to vote. And it's one of the things that established America and that helps keep our balance of power with a very activist Supreme Court. One of the balances to that is that we get to elect representatives who represent our viewpoint. And so to just give that up and not exercise that right that people fought so hard for, it seems like you're giving up something that is really valuable and you should really treasure. I also would suggest, talk to your friends about voting. Not how you vote, but, voting, and just so that it becomes a part of the conversation.
Going back to the conversation on what we can do as Starbucks partners, I think this message can go out to our store managers and really asking you to create the space within your stores to talk about this amazing opportunity for partners to lean into courage, to express the right to vote. If you go to fuelourdemocracy.com, there's a one-page flyer which talks about Fuel Our Democracy and points the partners in the right direction. It could also be when you're creating schedules for that week, having conversations with partners, like if you're planning on voting, let me know what can we do to work around your schedule, because we do want to give our partners the opportunity to vote. We don't want the fact that they're working a shift that day to be a reason why they can't. What we can do is we can look at covering that part of your shift and paying you for it if it's going to go into your shift time. So have those conversations with your partners when you're doing the schedule. We want to take those reasons away that sometimes keep us from voting, those roadblocks that we talked about earlier.
Thanks for being here today, Craig. We love our relationship with AIDS Project Los Angeles and all the work that you do, whether it's AIDS Walk in a couple of weeks, the advocacy, the care for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Craig.
Go vote.
Go vote.
Make your plan, register, do it.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right.
Thanks all, my partners.